Admiral Samuel Carter stood at the viewport of the USV Defiance, watching as the diplomatic shuttle departed from the massive Galactic Council station. The humans had finally done it. They had withdrawn from the peace negotiations. After months of being belittled, underestimated, and manipulated, the Excendory and Voltaran delegations had pushed too far with their latest demands, and Ambassador Elizabeth Morgan had calmly collected her documents, nodded to her staff, and announced humanity's withdrawal from the proceedings. The stars shined against the black emptiness of space. The council station grew smaller as the Defiance moved away. Its many lights and spinning rings reminded Carter of a carnival he visited as a child, but there was nothing fun about this place anymore. Set course for the Soul Defense Perimeter, Carter ordered, his face showing no emotion, and send word to Earth Command, Operation Silent Shield is now in effect. Lieutenant Joe Phillips nodded and turned to his console. His fingers moved quickly across the glowing screen. Message sent, sir. Earth Command confirms receipt. Carter nodded. 3 years of fake smiles and pretend diplomacy were finally over. The aliens thought humans were weak and easy to fool. That mistake would cost them dearly. What do you think they'll do now, sir? Asked Captain Lisa Brown, coming to stand beside him. They'll celebrate, Carter said. At least the Zendur and Vulturans will. They think they've won. They think we ran away scared. Brown smiled slightly. They have no idea what's coming, do they? No, Carter said. They don't. Meanwhile, on the council station, the alien representatives were divided between celebration and concern. High Chancellor Vextol of the Sendery Hegemony moved through the grand chamber, his tall scaled body towering over most other species. His neck frills expanded with pride as he spoke. The humans have shown their true nature, he announced to the gathering. Weekend afraid, just as I said. Now their system's resources will be divided according to council law, with the greater share going to the stronger members. Of course, several representatives nodded in agreement. The vulture and delegation, insect-like beings with shimmering carapaces, clicked their mandibles in what passed for laughter among their kind, but not all were pleased. Elder diplomat Naren of the Andromani Collective stood apart from the others. His crystalline eyes reflected the departing human vessels, visible through the station's main viewport. Unlike many council races, the Andromani had studied human history. They knew that humans rarely retreated without purpose. You celebrate too soon, Naren said, his voice like wind through chimes. The humans did not leave in fear. Did you not see their ambassador? There was no panic, no distress. Vextol flared his scales in dismissal. Always so cautious, Elder Naren. What can they do? Their technology is primitive. Their weapons are basic. Their ships are few. Are they? Naren asked quietly. We have only seen what they have shown us. Have you not wondered why they allowed our observers such free access? Why they asked so few questions about our technology? Why they seemed so unconcerned by our military advantages? The Voltaran representative waved a clawed limb. Because they are simple and trusting, like all primitive species. Naren turned to look at the now distant lights of the human vessels. No species that survived the development of nuclear weapons, that mastered space travel on their own, that united their entire planet after millennia of war, is simple. Or trusting, he moved closer to the viewport, watching as the last human ship winked out of sight. "You fools," Naren whispered, his crystalline eyes reflecting the empty space where the ships had been. "You have no idea what you've just unleashed." In the quiet of his private chamber later, Naren recorded a message to the Andromani High Council. His words were few but urgent. "Recommend immediate diplomatic outreach to Earth. The Council has gravely misjudged the humans. I fear what comes next." Back on Earth, Defense Secretary Olivia Wright convened an emergency meeting at the Pentagon's subterranean command center. The room was cold and filled with blue light from screens that covered the walls. Representatives from major military powers across the globe gathered around the holographic display showing the current deployments of Earth's unified fleet. Wright stood tall, her gray hair pulled back tightly. Her face was serious but calm. She had prepared for this day for years. "Ladies and gentlemen," Wright began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "For 3 years we've maintained a peaceful facade while preparing for this exact scenario. Project Prometheus is now operational, and the Lazarus Protocol will commence within 48 hours. The faces around the table showed no surprise. They had all been part of the deception. While alien observers watched Earth's primitive military exercises and outdated weapons tests, the real work happened in secret bases across the solar system. General William Hayes nodded grimly. He was a large man with a weathered face and hands that had seen combat on Earth before the aliens ever arrived. "Our deep space monitoring outposts have detected increased activity near the Orion Gateway. The Council races are mobilizing just as we predicted." On the main screen, red dots showed alien ships moving toward the gateway that connected their space to the Sol system. The aliens thought humans had only basic scanning technology. They were wrong. "In our countermeasures?" asked Admiral Jason Miller, a thin man with sharp eyes, who commanded Earth's Pacific Fleet. Captain Grace Bennett stepped forward. She was younger than most others in the room, a brilliant tactical officer who had risen quickly through the ranks. She activated a secure data stream that revealed hundreds of previously hidden military installations throughout the Sol system and beyond. The stealth shipyards in the Kuiper Belt have completed the Aramis-class destroyers. She said. The screen showed sleek black ships with weapons unlike anything the Council had seen. The Jupiter defense grid is armed and operational. The display shifted to show platforms hidden within Jupiter's moons. "And our special projects have exceeded all expectations." This time the screen showed something that made even the hardened military leaders murmur. Appreciation. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroid ships hidden beneath the surfaces of moons, and defense systems built into Earth itself that the alien observers had mistaken for weather control or communications networks. A young lieutenant with bright red-haired leaned toward her colleague, a captain from the European Union force. "I thought the Council observers monitored all our military capabilities," she whispered. Hayes smiled thinly as he overheard. "They monitored what we wanted them to see." Secretary Wright touched the table and the display changed to show the timeline of events. "The extendery will likely move first. Their culture demands a show of force to save face after our Withdrawal, we expect them to send a battle group through the gateway within 72 hours. Let them come, said General Frank Alvarez, commander of the Mars Colonial Guard. It's time they learned the truth about humanity. Wright nodded. Our observers on the council station report that Chancellor Vextol is already pushing for a military response. Elder Naren of the Endrome Romani is urging caution, but the warmongers have the upper hand for now, and if they attack, asked a voice from the back. Right eyes hardened. Then they will discover that humans have been fighting wars since before their ancestors crawled out of whatever primordial soup spawned them. We may look peaceful, but we prepare for the worst always. As the meeting continued in orbit above Earth, ships that the Council believed were simple defense platforms began to power up. Systems that had remained dormant for years, crews moved to battle stations. With practice efficiency, they were not afraid, they were ready. Earth had never wanted war with the stars, but if war came, Earth would be ready to show the galaxy why humans were the most dangerous species they had ever encountered. High Chancellor Vextol strutted into the Emergency Council session, his scales gleaming with pride. The Grand Chamber hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 27 space-faring civilizations gathered to discuss the human withdrawal. Vextol raised his clawed hands for silence. He enjoyed being the center of attention. The humans have revealed their true nature, weak and cowardly, he announced, his voice booming across the chamber. Now we can proceed with the resource allocation plans for their system without further delay. Many council members nodded in agreement. The Sendari were a powerful race with a large fleet. Few dared to challenge them openly. Ambassador Krell of the Tauran Expanse shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Unlike the bull-like tones, valued honesty and direct confrontation. Krill's four-fingered hand tapped nervously on the smooth council table. Chancellor, our intelligence suggests the humans' withdrawal was deliberate, perhaps even planned, Krell said. Nonsense, Vextol scoffed. Their technology is primitive, their military force is insignificant. Admiral Zarn of the Vulturian fleet stepped forward. The insect-like admiral's hard exoskeleton clicked as he moved to the central platform. His compound eyes reflected the light as he activated the chamber's main display. Then perhaps you can explain. These energy readings are border patrols detected yesterday, Zarn said. The hologram showed massive power signatures emanating from beyond Jupiter's orbit, signatures that hadn't been there the week before. Blue and green lights pulsed in patterns that made several council members gasp. Impossible, whispered Vextol. His neck frills flattened against his scales. Our observers have reported nothing unusual for 3 years, completed Elder Naren, stepping into the chamber, the crystalline being moved slowly, his age showing in his careful steps, which is precisely what concerns me. No developing civilization maintains such perfect operational transparency. The humans have been deceiving us. The chamber erupted in concerned chatter. Representative from the Fluxian collective stood up, her feathered arms spreading wide. How our technology is far superior, she argued. We have observed their military exercises, their weapons tests, their ship construction. Naren's expression darkened. Is it superior, or have we simply assumed it to be so because of their polite accommodation? Remember our history. We approached them, not the reverse. We have never seen their home defenses tested. Silence fell across the chamber. As the implications sank in, Admiral Zarn manipulated the controls and the display changed to show recordings of human diplomatic meetings. Look at their behavior, Zarn said. They asked few questions about our technology. They shared their advancements freely. No species acts this way unless they already know the answers. Naren finished, or they have better solutions. They wish to hide. A soft chirping sound interrupted the discussion. A messenger handed Zarn a data tablet. The Admiral's compound eyes widened as he read, "Our long-range scouts report unusual activity in the Kuiper belt." Zarn said, "Objects are moving that our sensors previously classified as inactive." Vextol's confidence wavered visibly. "What kind of objects?" "Large ones," Zar replied. "Very large ones." On the other side of the chamber, a small rodent-like being raised a hand. Professor Mick of the Galactic Academy was the Council's expert on pre-con civilizations. I reviewed human entertainment broadcasts during our initial contact period, Mick said, his voice high and fast. Their fiction is filled with stories of aliens coming to conquer Earth. In these stories, humans always fight back with hidden weapons and surprising tactics. We assumed these were fantasies. What if they weren't fantasies? Asked Krell. What if they were preparations? Vextol snorted. You suggest they were preparing for alien contact before we arrived? Absurd. Naren stepped to the center of the room. His crystalline body reflected light onto every face in the chamber. Consider their history, he said quietly. They fought 3 global wars. They developed nuclear weapons. They expanded to their moon and Mars despite having no enemies. In space, why would a species develop such military capabilities if not out of deep caution? Humans always prepare for the worst. Outside the chamber windows, the vast fleet of the Galactic Council floated in the darkness. It had seemed invincible yesterday. Today many wondered if it was enough. I suggest, Naren said, that we reconsider our approach to Earth. Immediately, Major Ethan Russell accessed the classified archives aboard the stealth intelligence vessel USV Shadowfall. The ship sat hidden near the Council's primary fleet staging area. No alien sensors could detect it thanks to technology humans had developed years before first contact. Russell was a tall man with dark hair and serious eyes. He had served in intelligence for 15 years. Now he reviewed the true records of humanity's first contact with alien life, the public story that the Galactic Council's survey ship discovered Earth and initiated peaceful contact was a carefully constructed lie. The truth was far different. Computer display records from Operation Watchful Eye 2142, Russell commanded. The screen flickered to life. It showed footage of an advanced human deep space monitoring station detecting the Council scout ship long before it entered the Sol system. It also displayed the confidential reports confirming that Earth's unified government had been aware of alien civilizations for decades. Humans had been watching the stars. They had intercepted alien communications. They had prepared for the day when contact would finally happen, and when it did, they pretended to be surprised. Lieutenant Nicole Warren entered the secure compartment. She was a communications specialist with quick eyes and quicker hands. Major, you should See this, she said, the Excendory. Battle group is mobilizing, 14 capital. Ship's escort complement, their setting. Course for the Sol Gateway, Russell. Nodded right on schedule. He had studied Zendari psychology, their pride would not allow humans to walk away from negotiations. They would try to force Earth back to the table. He activated the quantum encrypted channel to Earth. Command, this communication system was unknown to the Council races. They still used faster than light systems that humans had secretly improved upon years ago. Nighthawk to Lighthouse, the stage is set, the audience is arriving. Warren looked out at the alien ships through the special viewport. Do you think they'll actually attack? Russell shook his head. They'll try to intimidate us. First, a show of force. They don't understand that humans have never responded well to threats. My grandfather told me stories about the early days, Warren said quietly, about how we detected their signals in 2089, how we intercepted their communications for decades before they found us. Great deception, Russell said with a nod, the most important secret in human history. We knew they were out there, and we knew some of them couldn't be trusted. On the main screen, the ships moved into formation. They were impressive vessels with powerful weapons, but they had a weakness that humans had discovered years ago. Their shields could not stop quantum-phased energy on Earth in a hardened bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. Dr. Allen Foster reviewed the final diagnostics on the planetary defense system. To alien observers, it appeared to be a weather control network. In reality, it was the most powerful weapons platform ever built by human hands. Foster was an older man with kind eyes that hit brilliant mind. He had designed weapons systems for 30 years. He hoped they would never be needed. All systems green, reported his assistant, Dr. Karen Lee. The Jupiter defense grid is online. Mars perimeter is secure. The lunar platforms are charged and ready. Foster nodded. Let's hope that Century just want to talk. And if they don't, Lee asked. Foster's eyes hardened. Then they learn what humans are really capable of. In orbit around Earth, the visible human defense platforms remained quiet and seemingly unpowered. Alien observers reported that Earth's military was at normal readiness levels. They could not see the ships hiding in the dark side of the moon. They could not detect the weapons platforms disguised as communication satellites. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of the USV Defiance, now positioned near Mars. On his screen, he watched the Centauri fleet approach. It's time to drop the masquerade, he murmured to Captain Brown. One way or another, the galaxy learns the truth about humanity today. The incendiary battle group emerged from the gateway into Sol space with weapons charge. Their ships were huge, their hulls shining like polished metal in the sunlight. High Commander Dree stood on the command deck of the dreadnought. Inevitable conquest. He was tall even for Axandari, his scales a deep green. That showed his high rank. Drez believed this would be easy. A quick show of force would bring the humans back to negotiations on the Council's terms. Humans were weak, their ships were primitive, their weapons were simple, or so he thought. No response to our hails. Commander reported his communications. Officer, a smaller Zendari with lighter scales. Human defensive platforms are powered down. Their fleet appears to be in standard orbit around Earth and Mars. No active targeting systems detected. Dresd flared his neck frills in satisfaction. His sharp teeth showed as he smiled, as expected there. Helpless, move the fleet into position and prepare to disable their orbital defenses. The Council wants their infrastructure intact. The mighty fleet moved forward. 14 capital ships and 30 smaller vessels formed a perfect attack formation. They had practiced this many times. No species had ever stood against such a force. As the secondary fleet approached Jupiter, something strange happened. The apparently dormant human defense platforms changed, not in a way alien eyes could see, but in a way their sensors could feel. Unknown energy. Spike shouted at Zendari officer. His eyes widened with fear. Moments later, communications between the alien vessels dissolved into static. Each ship could no longer talk to the others. Their shared battle network went dark. Their targeting systems failed. Panic spread across the fleet. They had never faced an enemy who could shut down their communication so completely. On the USV Defiance, Admiral Carter watched calmly as the quantum disruption field activated. This technology was one of humanity's best-kept secrets. It severed the incendiary ships from their chain of command and from each other. Phase 1 complete. Carter noted. Hold position. Let's see how they respond to isolation. The incendiary commanders were trained to expect victory in all battles. They believed their technology was superior to all others. Now they faced a frightening truth. They could neither communicate with each other nor access their shared tactical network. Before they could adapt, the seemingly unpowered human vessels began to move. Ships that appeared to be simple defense platforms revealed hidden weapons. Vessels that the thought were cargo carriers suddenly showed military shields. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination. They did not fire. They did not threaten. They simply surrounded the extendary force in a display of superior tactics. Now they understand, murmured Captain Kelly Ross of the USV Sovereign. She was a veteran of Earth's unified navy. Her ship now moved into position behind the largest tendery vessel. We were never negotiating from a position of weakness. On the inevitable conquest, Commander Dree tried to make sense of what was happening. His tactical officer struggled to track the human ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. Impossible, Dree whispered. Our intelligence said they had only 40 defense vessels. I count over 200. Commander, his second-in-command said, with fear in his voice, look at their weapons. Those are not the same designs we observed in their military exercises. Dree stared at the screen. The human chips now carried weapons unlike anything in the database. His confidence drained away like water. We've been deceived, he realized. All this time on Earth, Defense Secretary Wright received the real-time battle feed in the command center. Around her, military leaders watched in silence as years of preparation paid off. Send the message, Wright ordered. Moments later, every Sendari ship received the same communication. It was simple, direct, and terrifying in its confidence. Sendari fleet, you have entered restricted space with weapons active. We have disabled your communications as a non-lethal first response. Withdraw immediately or face further defensive measures. This is your only warning. In the council chamber, Elder Naren received word of the confrontation. The crystalline being turned to High Chancellor Vextol. It seems, Naren said. Quietly, the humans are not as helpless as you believed, as the disoriented forces struggled to regroup. The true extent of humanity's deception became apparent from hidden positions all across the solar system. More human ships appeared. They emerged from concealed positions in the asteroid belt, rising like ghosts from the darkness. They appeared from beneath the clouds of Saturn, ships that had been hiding there for years. They launched from stealth facilities on Mars' moons, bases that alien observers had never detected. These vessels were unlike any the Council races had seen before. They moved with a speed that should have been impossible for ships their size. Their hulls absorbed scanning beams instead of reflecting them. Their weapons remained powered down, but their mere presence sent a clear message. On the Council station, the emergency session descended into chaos as sensor data poured in. Screens around the chamber showed human military capabilities far beyond what had been disclosed during 3 years of negotiations. How is this possible? Demanded the Vulturan representative, his insect-like mandibles clicking. Rapidly in distress, their technological development was assessed at level 3. Elder Nuren shook his head slowly. His crystalline form caught the light as he moved to the center of the chamber. No, he said. We assessed what they showed us at level 3. We never questioned why a species that achieved faster than light travel on their own would so readily accept our superior technologies without significant inquiry. We never asked why they permitted our observers such extensive access with so few restrictions. The room fell silent. The truth was uncomfortable. They were studying us, said Krellel of the Taurans. All this time, we thought we were studying them. On the bridge of the USV Indomitable, Commander Daniel Phillips watched the tactical display. The screen showed the positions of over 300 human warships, vessels that had never appeared in any report to the Council. Phillips was a calm man with steady hands and sharp eyes. He had trained for this day for most of his career. Maintain distance, he ordered his crew. Remember, this is a demonstration, not an engagement. No one fires unless fired upon. The human fleet executed a perfect encirclement maneuver surrounding the secondary battle group. Without firing a single shot, the alien ships were now completely boxed in with no clear escape route except back through the gateway. Then, as the alien commanders watched in shock, the human vessels activated advanced shield systems. The shields glowed with a blue-green light that the Council had believed were centuries beyond Earth's capability. What do we do? Commander asked. Phillips, second in command. We wait. Phillips replied. The ball is in their court now, in the Pentagon's command center. Secretary Wright received updates from all fleet positions. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The Excendery were contained. No shots had been fired. No lives had been lost. Phase 2 complete, she announced to the gathered military leaders. Prepare for diplomatic re-engagement. General Hayes looked puzzled. We're going back to negotiations after all this, right? Smiled. We never wanted war, General. We wanted respect. Now we'll get it. She turned to her communications officer. Send word to Ambassador Howard. It's time for her team to make their entrance on that Sindari flagship. Commander Drez faced the hardest decision of his career. His fleet was surrounded. His weapons might not penetrate the human shields. His communications were still disrupted. "Orders, sir?" asked his tactical officer. Dree stared at the screen, watching as even more human ships moved into position near the gateway. There would be no easy retreat. "Send message by light signals," he ordered. "Request communication with human command." "Surrender, sir?" his second asked, neck frills flat against his scales in shame. "No," Dree said firmly. "Diplomacy. We came to deliver a message. It seems they have delivered one instead. Now we must listen." In the dark space between Mars and Jupiter, Admiral Carter received word of the request. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Let's an LT Unk and GT hear what they have to say." As the communications officer worked, Carter exchanged a look with Captain Brown. 3 years, he said quietly. 3 years of pretending to be less than we are. 3 years of smiling while they plotted to take our resources. Was it worth it? Brown asked. Carter nodded as Thienery commander's face appeared on screen. "We learned everything about them while showing them almost nothing about us. I'd say that was time well spent." Ambassador Patricia Howard entered the council chamber, flanked by military officers. Unlike the previous diplomatic team, they wore not the simple clothes of Earth's unified government, but the formal uniforms of Earth Defense Command. Their uniforms had medals and insignia that told a very different story about humanity's experience in space. Howard was a tall woman with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had spent 20 years in diplomatic service, but before that, she had been a military intelligence officer. She understood both war and peace. The chamber fell silent as the humans walked to the center. Many alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The humans looked different. Today they stood taller. Their faces showed no fear. "Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Council," Howard began, her voice echoing through the silent chamber. "For 3 years we have participated in these negotiations in good faith, despite knowing from the outset that certain council races intended to exploit our world. Today, that charade ends." She activated a holographic display in the center of the room. It showed the encircled Extendere fleet. Their ships looked small and vulnerable, surrounded by the human forces. "Your battle group is currently experiencing the effects of our quantum disruption technology. They are unharmed but completely isolated. They will remain so until our terms are met." High Chancellor Vextol rose from his seat. His scale body trembled with rage, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. "You dare threaten the council?" he blustered. Howard smiled coldly. "This is not a threat, Chancellor. It's a correction of your misunderstanding. Humanity did not join these talks as supplicants, but as equals. We allowed your observers to see a carefully constructed version of our civilization while we evaluated your intentions. Those intentions have now been made clear." She nodded to Commander Ryan West, who stood beside her. West was a serious man with dark skin and strong hands. He distributed data tablets to each representative. The aliens looked at the screens with wide eyes and expressions of disbelief. These contained the actual technological capabilities of Earth and her colonies. You will note that in several key areas, particularly quantum communications, energy generation, and stealth systems, we exceed current council standards. "Colonies," whispered a Taurian Representative, his bull-like face. Showing shock, your species is confined. To one system, Howard's expression. Remained calm, another misconception. Humanity established its first extras. Colony 73 years ago, we now maintain 17. Settlements across 12 star systems, none of which appear in your records because, unlike the council races, we understand the value of quiet development. The chamber erupted in surprised conversation. Elder Naren studied the data tablet carefully, his crystalline eyes reflecting the screen's light. It says here you detected our communication signals over 100 years ago, Naren said. Howard nodded. We intercepted your transmissions in 2089. We studied your languages, your cultures, your technologies, and your conflicts when your survey ship discovered Earth in 2142. We were ready. Ready for what? Asked the Voltaren representative. For the possibility that not all alien life would be friendly, Howard replied. Human fiction had long imagined first contact scenarios. Many of those stories ended badly for Earth. We were determined that reality would not follow that path. She touched her tablet and the display changed to show human colonies on distant worlds, beautiful cities under protective domes, farms growing crops on planets light years from Earth, mining operations on asteroids rich with rare metals. We are not the primitive species you believed us to be, Howard continued. We are not helpless or naive. We came to these talks hoping to find true partners among the stars. Instead, we found predators looking for easy prey. Vextall sank back into his seat. For once, the proud Senderi had no reply. Howard's voice softened slightly, but that can change. Today marks the beginning of a new relationship between Earth and the Galactic Council, one based on truth and mutual respect rather than deception and exploitation. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative. The question is, are you ready for that kind of relationship? 2 weeks after the confrontation at the gateway, a new round of negotiations began. The Grand Council chamber had changed. The raised platform where the Extendary and Vulture delegations once sat high above others was gone. Now all seats were at the same level, forming a perfect circle. The human delegation was treated with newfound respect. No one called them primitive anymore. No one suggested Earth resources should be divided among superior races. The balance of power had shifted dramatically. Ambassador Howard sat at the new circular table, reviewing terms. On her data tablet, behind her stood Admiral Carter and Secretary Wright. The military leaders were now welcome in diplomatic meetings, strength and wisdom. Together as humanity had always believed, the defense cooperation agreement is acceptable, Howard stated. Looking up from the tablet, Earth will contribute our quantum disruption technology to the Common Defense Network in exchange for the Council's gravitational manipulation advances. Elder Naren, now elevated to chief mediator following the diplomatic reshuffling, nodded in agreement. His crystalline form glinted in the chamber's light. He had been one of the few who had questioned the Council's approach to humans from the beginning. And the matter of the Extendary incursion, Naren asked. Secretary Wright stepped forward. She wore her formal uniform with its rows of medals and ribbons. The fleet will be released as soon as High Chancellor Vextall signs the non-aggression pact. no disciplinary action will be pursued. Across the chamber, Vextel sat in silence. His once proud neck frills lay flat against his scales. His position within the extendary hegemony had been severely weakened. The failed attempt to intimidate Earth had cost him much respect. When Vextel finally spoke, his voice was quieter than before. The hegemony agrees to these terms, he said. We will sign the pact. As the session concluded, Admiral Carter and Captain Ross observed from the diplomatic gallery above the main floor. Do you think they've truly learned their lesson? Ross asked quietly. Carter watched as the representatives filed out, noting how the other races now regarded the humans with a mixture of caution and newfound respect. Some have, he replied, the rest will catch up. Humanity has revealed enough of our capabilities to ensure a place at the table, but not so much that we've exposed all our advantages. And Project Sentinel? Ross asked, referring to humanity's most advanced defense system. Remains our secret for now. Carter turned to leave the gallery. Peace through strength, Captain. It's worked for humanity since the first tribes built walls. Some things never change, not even among the stars. On Earth, citizens watched broadcasts of the new treaty signing. They cheered as their representatives stood proud and equal. Among the alien races, most people didn't know how close their world had come to conflict. They didn't know about the hidden fleets or secret technologies. They only knew that humanity now had friends among the stars, in classified facilities across the solar system. Engineers and scientists continued their work. New ships were built in the Kuiper Belt shipyards. New weapons were tested in the dark spaces beyond Neptune. Humanity hoped for peace but prepared for war. It was the human way. Ambassador Howard stood on the observation deck of the Council Station, looking out at the stars. Elder Naren joined her there. Your people are full of surprises, Naren said. Howard smiled. We like to think so. What would you have done if the Excendery had opened fire? Naren asked. Howard's smile faded. Let's be grateful we didn't have to find out. Naren's crystalline eyes studied her face. You still keep secrets? Of course, Howard replied. Don't you? The alien made sound like chimes in the wind. It was laughter indeed. Perhaps our species are not so different after all. Howard looked back to the stars, to the billions of points of life where unknown civilizations might wait. That's the most important lesson of all, isn't it? She said. Different shapes, different biologies, but the same hopes and fears beneath it all. As the human ships prepared to depart the Council Station, Admiral Carter gave one final order from the bridge of the Defiance. Set course for home, he said. Our work here is